All right, we're back.
All right, back and in a new location.
Yeah, a new setting for you. It looks like you're in
New
a
setup.
cave.
Yes. Here, here's where all the conspiracy theories occur. Where
Yeah,
we
just like a
so
white background.
yeah.
The only thing you can see is
we
like the spots on aqua.
the dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just in case I talk too much shit about Formula One, that they can't find me.
Oh yeah, they won't
There's
be able to.
nothing that they can tell. Like, ooh, where is he?
They got me spotted. I'm in Brazil.
Oh.
uh, all right.
Yeah,
So
we did it. Imola.
yeah, Imola, good race. I guess I'll start by saying that I didn't think it was the most exciting race, but I thought it was pretty good. Like I thought
Yes.
it less good than Australia, I would say.
Yeah, and Australia you rated worse than like Bahrain and Jeddah. That
Yeah,
not worse, but lower.
lower, yes.
But yeah, this was. I think like we've said before, we've been spoiled in the past year for
Mhm.
Formula One, where like all the races have had like some sort of fight for the lead. Obviously, Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton just went at it all of last year.
Mhm.
And also we had like a lot of crazy races, like with Norris in Russia almost winning.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mhm.
which other ones? We had a couple of other like unexpected podiums as well.
Mhm. Oh yeah, we had. Well, didn't Ocon win like a race?
Ocon won in Hungary.
Gasly won a race out of
I think
nowhere.
Vettel also ended in the podium in that one. Did he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
or in
The-
Baku, I think he ended a podium in Baku.
no, I
And
think it
then
was Ocon and Vettel on that one time, and then it was like Leclerc.
Hamilton.
It could be Hamilton actually, and the one with Gasly was Gasly, and then Sainz was second. I don't remember who was third,
Oh,
but I
that was in
remember.
Monza.
Yeah, that was in Monza.
Yeah.
Which was
So
pretty crazy for AlphaTauri to win that. But anyways, I digress.
anyways, we are like Imola is like it wasn't as exciting as like all of those other races, but that doesn't mean that it was a bad race in general.
Mhm.
I think towards the second half of the race, I'm like I said to me, like, come on, do something.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
is it like,
yeah.
is it gonna rain? Is it not gonna rain? You know,
Mhm.
like we enter like the classic Formula One conundrum that the whole race they're telling us there's a chance of rain, there's a chance of rain, and then it doesn't rain at
Yeah.
all.
Hmm.
And then like in the last two laps or the last one lap, it's like it's raining in turn seven, and then I'm waiting for turn seven to occur, and I'm like,
And
there's
there's nothing. It's just like dry.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that tends to happen. Yeah, it's just I guess there was like some anticipation of tension there. I think Leclerc at some points so before the incident, I think it looked like as good as he was gonna get is Leclerc racing Perez for second place.
mhm.
But then after the incident, like it kind of sucked the excitement out. I mean, like an incident is interesting, but it's also like it deprives of some fun. You don't really want to see a car crashing if you know that there's gonna be like good racing ahead, right? If it's like a guy that's on the back and like it's not doing anything, then you're like, sure, that guy crashes. It's the drama again because the
Yeah.
top guys are fighting. But if it's the guy that that's trying to gain points for the championship and stuff. I mean, if he crashes before he's passing anybody, it's kind of like it sucks a little bit of the excitement out. But
Yeah, I
some
mean
drama,
it
anyways.
happens. I think it
Mhm.
was very similar in qualifying
Mhm.
that you're expecting the guys to like go for pole position, and then
Yeah,
like it just kept getting red flag over and over again.
yeah.
It kind of like takes the excitement out, and then you're finally waiting like, oh, they're gonna go for one last lap, we're gonna see who gets it, and they're fighting it, and then there's another
Then
like
there's another red
red
flag, and then
flag.
it's over.
Yeah,
Uh,
so that, yes, it sucks the excitement out of it, but yeah, that's because we have like this expectation to go. It needs to be exciting all the way till the end,
mhm.
and that's not always how it goes in sports. I'm okay that it's not like that. I understand it, but yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I also wasn't expecting a whole lot from Imola. I mean, Imola. if you look at it, if you look at the dash cam footage from like the race, it just looks like a fun race to drive in. Like it looks like a really fun track to just like be in the car and like experience it. But is it the best for racing? I don't know. It's really hard to pass, and then there's only one passing zone, and for the most part, you're just kind of just seeing like a bunch of cars follow each other, you know.
Yeah.
So that's an aspect that you can't escape away from Imola, but I don't know. It was, I guess, as good as it can be for like the new cars. So in Imola, so yeah. But
I mean, we can go like directly into like what happened over the weekend. I don't think qualifying had anything crazy that happened except for maybe Carlos Sainz making that mistake. Yeah, just
yeah. I guess we can start with Carlos Sainz again, since he's the first thing, and it's very unfortunate for him. So like the very first incident, I would say like he's again faltering under pressure. He's pushing himself too hard. But then you see the replay, and it's like, no, really, it wasn't that much his fault. He just lost the car and like ended up touching the wall, and it wasn't even that harsh of a hit. It just took him out, you know.
Yep.
And then for the race, I don't know. So what are your thoughts on that incident in the race?
I thought, and then when I saw it, I thought like, yeah, it was a racing incident. I kind of blamed it a little bit on Daniel Ricciardo, but also like not all that much. Like if I have to blame it, like it's like the first turn, you know.
Yeah.
We are on raining conditions.
Yeah.
So like the track is slippery. Also, the track is super narrow.
Yeah, it's very short. Yeah.
So like I understand like if you are the best driver, like you're in Formula One, so you are considered to be
the best drivers.
All the drivers that exist in the world, you are like in the top 20, or that's what it is assumed. So you assume that the drivers, including Daniel Ricciardo, will take that into consideration when like, okay, we have raining conditions. I have these tires; they're not warm enough. Yep. It is the first turn of the first lap. The track is really narrow. I have to really be careful.
In top form, yeah.
Yeah, so I understand that these incidents happen, but I blame it a little bit more on Ricciardo. I don't think it was Sainz's fault.
No, exactly, because I don't think there was anything that Sainz could have really done differently that like would have prevented it. Like, I was supposed to give him more space. Like, you can't. I mean, like the guy was already like he gave him plenty of space. I think Ricciardo just kind of went a little too deep on that. I think I put it like maybe like 95% on Ricciardo. But like, the thing is that like that sounds pretty harsh, but it was like a really tiny mistake.
Yeah, it's just like if he would have just hit the brakes like, I don't know, half a second earlier. It was such a little thing, like, so
it was a very little touch, and then it didn't even damage the car of either of them. Maybe of Ricciardo a little bit, but like then Sainz just got stuck in the sand, like in the most unlucky way, on the gravel, and it's like, I don't know. It's pretty sad to see that, because like it's not. It really didn't feel like it was his fault. It was a very light incident, and you're out of the race for that. It's like, I don't know.
Ricciardo didn't even get a penalty. I think it's also because on the first like sort of lap on the first turns, like they give more leeway to that sort of incident.
Yes, but I mean the fact that also like Ricciardo did end up on the end of the race, like on the back of the race, of the lineup, I guess. So like he got fairly punished by his own mistake.
Like he ruined his race.
Yeah.
So I mean, with that in mind, let's talk about Ricciardo, including him here.
Sure.
Like, what's up?
Well, I guess I was gonna. I think the theme of the weekend for me that I perceive, more like an underlying theme, not like the big header theme, because it's Verstappen versus Leclerc. I mean, that's just how the season is shaping out to be. That's like the big title. But I think like a few of the underlying stories for me, I think specifically for this track was like the battle between the young and the old, between like especially in the two teams that have like a driver that's young and the one that's old, which is Mercedes and the McLarens. Both of them have.
I mean, you also have Aston Martin and you
Aston
have
Martin is another one, yeah.
Like Fernando Alonso and Esteban Ocon.
Alfa Romeo's have one.
Yeah, so Bottas and Zhou. I mean, you can say K-Mag and Mick Schumacher.
In a way you could say that, but I don't know. K-Mag is not that old.
I know, but more experience. But yeah, I mean, if we want to put it like that, I can see it totally.
Yeah. So, but I think that the ones that I focused on, because they were just more appealing to me, especially because they're top teams. It was Ricciardo versus Norris, and then we can talk about Hamilton and Russell later. But yeah, it's like you start thinking of like, I mean, drivers do start losing a little bit while they get older, right? Like there's no, you can't fight it. It's not so much that you're a worse driver, in my opinion, as much as like the younger driver just has more stamina. They just have more energy to come every race to race.
And then you lose reflexes, and like that's not like it's because they're just getting worse. It's like, no, that's just what happens to human beings.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you start losing a little bit of like, your sharpness about like how you take turns and things like that, the edge that you had. But I think more than that, I feel like, especially because 30, I don't think 30, what are like 34 that is required, 33 maybe. Like, I don't think that's like a defining age where like he totally loses like that much of his abilities. I just think it takes more energy out of him. And in a similar way in which like Hamilton also loses a little bit more of his energy having to race against somebody like Russell. And it's not like they don't have the skill. It's that like they need to have a reason to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, they need the motivation.
Exactly.
Because they're like coming at a point in their careers where it's like every year that I'm here, it's like a very realistic possibility that I'm about to retire.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's no motivation or passion behind what they're doing, it's like, I don't know, it feels like they just keep declining and declining and declining. And that hunger for winning like almost disappears.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can see that being a theme for Ricciardo, a little bit for Vettel as well.
It's not so much that like it disappears. So it's like, I feel like, well, I don't know about Vettel, but for example, like what Hamilton is going through at the moment, which he's in a slow car and a very uncomfortable car, and he's having to compete with the guy that comes in like fresh from Williams, who really wants to prove himself, who really wants to go fast. And Hamilton doesn't even have a car that can win championships, he doesn't even have a car that can really race against like Alpha Tauri and stuff.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, as Hamilton, I understand like how much energy do I want to spend this season? How much effort do I want to put into this season? And that's going to take a toll on me mentally and a toll on me physically. So like he's going out there, he's driving still pretty good, but he's not giving like, in my opinion, he's not like giving like championship winning racing because he doesn't need to. They're like, he's not in a car that can do that at the moment. And at first, at the beginning of the season, it seemed like the Mercedes could bounce back, but now it appears that maybe the problems are a little bit more permanent or are going to be prolonged for like a few more races at the very least.
Okay. So, I mean, with that in mind, with that in mind, we can talk about Mercedes.
Yeah.
So, and we can talk about Lewis Hamilton and George Russell there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
certainly
those two.
Certainly, that's the thing that that we were just saying that that it's just like Hamilton. It's not that he's not trying enough. It's like it's more than like I think he's saving his energy. I think he's like, he still has the spirit that if he had the car that he could drive for a championship, but the car is not under him at the moment, and it's a very uncomfortable car. So I honestly don't think that like we're gonna see a lot of him. I also don't think he minds George Russell so much taking the spotlight and like driving faster and putting more effort. I think he's fine with it. I think he's fine with it at the moment because he's not driving for like the championship, which is what I think is what he's saying in Formula One for, because he wants to get that 8.
Part of me feels, I don't know if like last year, Leclerc and Carlos Sainz. So for example, Leclerc, I feel like he's always been better than Carlos Sainz, despite of what like the hype last year. Everybody was saying like, "Oh, is Carlos Sainz just as good as Leclerc, etc." But my honest opinion is that I feel like Leclerc is like, I don't need to put an effort here, you know. It's like we're not gonna win the championship. It seems like we're already beating McLaren,
which is the goal at that point.
So as long as I just drive steady and do whatever, like we're gonna be fine. And then Carlos Sainz at that point just kept being solid, and he looked like the superstar. But I think, and then Leclerc's like, "Oh, is Leclerc like done?" And I'm like, "No, I think it's kind of like the same thing you're saying about Lewis Hamilton. It's like Leclerc is like, we're not in a championship winning car. We're not fighting for wins here. I'm being as good as I can be, but I'm not gonna give it the extra mile,
right?
Just like, oh, I'm gonna end up fifth, like 1 second ahead of the guy in front of me. But if I put like an extra mile, I'll end up 5 seconds in front of him, and I'm still fifth."
Right.
Like,
exactly. No, yeah, and also it's like, okay, so I finished the season 7th instead of 5th because I mean, he kind of got screwed at the end of the season as well. But it's like, all right, so but what's the deal? You know, like he knows he's a faster driver. He's, you know, it's just sometimes the car is not there. I mean, and that's not to say that like drivers shouldn't try like their hardest like every race, but they also have to like measure themselves. Like, you know, like energy eventually does run out, so you have to like keep your energy strong for when you need it.
Yeah. With that in mind, do you think that Mercedes are going to win a race this year?
Well, again, I feel like, I mean, I don't know. I've said this before, but I think anything can happen. I mean, yeah, it could be that the Ferraris and the Red Bulls take each other out, and then like the Mercs are in the right place. Are they gonna win it on merit? Like outrace the Red Bulls and Ferraris?
Yes.
Maybe. Like, I feel like if by half the season, maybe by near the end of the European season, if they are not really there in the pace, or if they come back from the summer break and they're not there in the pace, they are not going to win any races because they're just going to put all the effort on the next year. They're going to try to improve the car for next year. They're going to try to do as much as they can for this year. But like, I think if they're not even in contention at that point, but they're still going for like third or like a solid third, then they just focus their energy on the next year, and then they'll come back a little bit stronger. I mean, it's still important to finish higher than the McLarens, but so it'll depend on how much they can do at the beginning of the year. If they can fix that terrible porpoising, and go faster on the straights, I think they can they have a chance at that point.
Yeah, and how do you feel about Hamilton being lapped by Verstappen?
I don't know. I feel like that was just drama that the casters like to add a little bit. It's kind of like, I mean, he was stuck. It's not so much that like he got outdriven or that the car was that much slower. I don't think it was. It's just that like
I feel like Lewis was definitely faster than Gasly.
Yeah.
It's just the track, it doesn't lend itself to do you know what you need to do.
And especially in the rain.
In the rain, yeah. So I thought a couple of times like, oh, he could go on the inside, but like every time you see the onboard from Hamilton, and I'm like, the inside is still fully wet.
Yeah,
if you go on the inside and he has dry tires, yeah, he's gonna lose it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think he did as best as he could, and I mean, he gave it a try for like 25 laps. I don't know, every time just trying to go. But I think Lewis is a smart driver in the way that like, hey, I'm not gonna force like an overtake here when like it doesn't exist. Like we're on wet conditions, and I'm trying my best to overtake here, but like it's gonna be probably more embarrassing if I'm trying to overtake this dude and then I take
Both
myself
of us
out
out. Yeah,
on like 13th position, like you know.
exactly.
So I think that Lewis did the best that he could, but
Yeah.
yeah, he just got stuck.
Yeah, I mean, it's not his best weekend, and it's also I don't think he was looking for his best weekend. I think his priority, and I think he's a pretty smart driver, is that he needs to they need to fix the car. They need to just get it in a better spot, and he's just gonna drive it in every weekend to try to get it better. But he's
Yeah,
not trying to
he's just
win.
gonna be solid, and then
Yeah.
he's like, I'm gonna be as solid as I can, as careful as I can, and hopefully the next time we come around, the car is better.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't think it can get any worse.
It's probably the one of the most evident ones. I mean, the Ferraris bounce a lot too, but somehow they still manage to have the pace. But the Mercedes are like bouncing all over. It's
Yeah,
it's it's, it's actually a little bit. Maybe it has to do with the side pods and the way they did them.
I
Uh,
feel I feel like Mercedes think that their concept with the side pods like that is faster than the Red Bull or the Ferrari,
mhm.
as long as they can control the bouncing.
Yeah,
You know, I feel like that's their thought process.
they're
It's
putting the
like
money on that. Yeah.
it's like, hey, our concept is definitely faster. We
Mhm.
just need to fix this issue, and then we'll be good. Uh, Otherwise, or perhaps like maybe the budget cap this year is playing like a role into it. It's like we already spent money on this. Like, do we spend now the money to go back to a different concept,
Yeah.
and then like put resources on that? It's like, who knows like all the factors that are there in contention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so I don't know, it'll be interesting to see. That's what I'm thinking, is that like if they can't get it by like by the summer break, if they can get like a win or close to, getting even. Yeah, I think they might put resources for next year instead. As long as they remain faster than the McLarens, I think.
Okay. All right. Let's leave it at there.
All right.
So the other thing I wanted to talk about, which we kind of skipped over at the beginning of the weekend, is the sprint race.
Oh yeah, sure.
So I want to get your thoughts on qualifying on the weekend, the sprint race on Saturday. Do you like the sprint race format?
I haven't made up my mind about it. I like. There's a part of me that really likes it, but there's another part of me that like I'm like, it's unnecessary. So it's like, first of all, they lose viewers on qualifying, but they get a lot more viewers, I think, on the race, which is okay. Because the qualifier is in the middle of a Friday when everybody's at work, so it's kind of hard to like try to tune in at the same time like you're at work. Well,
Yep.
so like you have to kind of make an effort for that. But then the sprint race is kind of exciting. It's kind of fun, but to me, it feels like I don't know, like the first 20 races of a race, or the first 20 laps of a race, in which like not a lot happens because not a lot has to happen. And which drivers try to be more careful. And like, well, there is some passes, they're pretty safe passes. Nobody's taking a lot of risk because nobody wants to be out because so I was to start last. So it's like it just feels like the first third of the race, and then it's kind of like there's like a red flag. I do think I like the fact that they're giving more points out this year,
Yeah.
because it is a race, and it kind of feels like if it's gonna be a race where we're trying to pass somebody and only the top three get places, then what are we doing here? Like why are we all trying to do this? Like there's like 17 cars that are just like sitting there like doing nothing. 8 is better. I still think it maybe should be worth a little bit more points.
I think it's fine based on what it is, right? So the winner of the Grand Prix is 25 points, and getting 8 for a third of a race makes sense to me.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I guess that's about right.
So I think I know we've complained before about the point system in Formula One, and but I think if anything, this one does make sense based on the fact that like if you win a race, it's 25 points, and then this is a third of a race, so you divide it by 3, 8 points should be fine. it still doesn't fix the fact that like I don't know why we get 25 on the main on the main event. But aside from that, assuming that we just accept that, then I feel like the sprint race is okay.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that logic makes sense too. It's like about a third of the race, so it should be about a third of the points. And then it's literally like 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
Yeah,
which is how it
like
should
that.
be. I should be in Formula One. So it's like, okay, I mean that makes sense. Yeah. So yeah, I think I was fine with it. Again, it's just a little bit of action.
You know that they've already reached out to some other tracks next year to host sprint races. I think this year there's only going to be 3, and next year they want to increase it to 6. So they're already doubling up on the sprint races. I don't like the sprint races at all. Like, well, not that I don't like them at all. I like the fact that we're seeing cars racing.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that there's a standing start and there's like a lot of hype and emotion because you're like, oh, there's something happening, you know? But then when it ends, I'm like, there's something missing, you know? Like, I'm like, I had all of this excitement and it kind of, I don't know where it went.
Yeah. Yeah,
it's because now there's another race tomorrow on the same track. And I'm like, did I really watch like a qualifying here? No, it was a race, but it was a very short race.
Yes.
And I was hyped about it. And when it ended, I'm not excited about the result.
Yeah. I think, yeah, that's kind of what I meant when I said like it feels like a red flag on the middle of the race. And then we just stopped and then we come back tomorrow and then we finish the race.
Yeah, I think the beginning of the race is fine. You know, there's action, it's short, everybody's kind of like fighting as best as they can, as being as careful as they can as well, so they don't take any risk. It's just the end of the sprint race. It feels like, I don't know, it's not as exciting. Yes, like the beginning of qualifying, it's a little boring. You know, people are getting going, and you're getting to find out, oh, who's gonna be eliminated here. Whoever is at first doesn't really matter. You're kind of checking like which ones are going to be at the bottom, and then on second quali, you're like, it starts getting more exciting to see who's going to get to the final shootout. And then on Q3, you get like the excitement up until the very last minute when they do the last lap to see who's going to get pole position. Yeah. And when they get it, you're like, oh, that was exciting, you know? Like that was a really good, like all throughout, there was a story developing here.
There's always like a crescendo going on of like, the more that it goes, like the more exciting it gets. Yeah.
Yes. And I feel like on the sprint race that we don't get that.
It's like the opposite.
Yeah. It starts really strong. And then whatever the result is, I'm almost like, I don't care about this result. Like, yeah, there's some points, but at the end of the day, there's going to be the main event tomorrow. And that's where it counts.
And I do think that maybe there's some merit into seeing if putting points for qualifying should be a thing as well. Because I think it's a really big part and really interesting part of the weekend because, well, a whole lot of your setup needs to be for both, but like you need to decide like should your setup be more to be like fast laps or should it be more towards like a longer race? If you give it more points for qualifying, I think you find a little bit more of the mixed strategies of the lower teams trying to be a little bit faster.
I think one factor as to why also people like it is because it gives the teams less time to practice, and therefore it's not as predictable. Like you have practice 1, practice 2, practice 3, then quali, and then here you have practice 1 and then quali right away, and then you get something like it happened in this case in the weekend for Imola is that you have practice 1, it's raining, and then the first time that there's dry conditions, it's in the middle of qualifying. So nobody knows, like, do we even have the right setup for
what to do? Yeah.
I mean, that is exciting, but then again, it's like, are we doing this for the excitement or
like, yeah, where does it fit into like an actual race event? Yeah, I don't know. I do kind of agree with that. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, I mixed feelings about the sprint race.
I mean,
It also,
I'm okay with it. Like if they keep it, sure, but I'll be happier if they just take it out.
yeah, I'll be okay with it. I'll be 100% okay with it. Like for to me, it's not necessary at all. I mean, it doesn't add all that much to Formula One for me.
Yeah,
It's just kind of there. Like, oh yeah, sometimes that happens, but like, what's the
as long
logic?
as it doesn't happen in all of the races, and I'm like, okay, you can keep it.
And why do you need to have it 6 instead of 3? Like, that's also, it doesn't really make sense. Like, it's just kind of there for to see if like they can make it entertaining. I just don't know. I don't really think it's quite getting there.
Yeah, maybe it's the same racing. You have 23 races, a third of the races is sprint.
Yeah.
But then again, like a third of 23 is 8. So I hope that's not the case. But yeah, 20% of the calendar needs to be a sprint. And I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like, okay, that's fine. Don't make it any more than that.
It's like everything from Formula One. It feel kind of like the point system. Like where it just feels arbitrary. Like why are we arranging it this way? Why are we doing 6? Why not 9? Why not 12? Or why not just 3? Why not keep it at that?
Yeah,
Or
like
why 3 to begin with? Yeah, like it's just kind of an arbitrary number that they chosen, and it's like we'll give that a try in three races, and now there's like now it's gonna be 6, but it's not like they have an actual concept of why it should even be implemented.
yeah, it feels like they're just doing it because it's exciting.
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't care about why it's exciting. Give me the mathematical reason.
yeah, like explain me the
don't
thesis.
things out of thin air.
Yeah, of like why we need to have this in the sport. Like why this adds to a race weekend as opposed to not having it. Like, what is your reasoning? Why is it like? Is it, I would argue that you could say like it's important to have four quarters in like American football. And you could there's a reason why there's 4 quarters. I mean, like people get tired and stuff like that. But what is the reasoning for like doing half a day of a third of a race and then the next day the full race, and then as a qualifying style too, where like you begin like I don't know. I guess it's just like a different type of racing format.
Yeah, I mean, I know that for the previous years they were like testing it to see if people liked it, or like if it worked. And I'm like, yeah, it does sort of work, but like, what's the goal? Tell me what the overall goal of this testing is. Like, are you trying to implement it fully? Now you increased it, but there's no explanation as to why. It's like, we're going to increase it. And I'm like, I just want a reasoning. Maybe if you give me a reasoning and it makes sense, I could change my mind completely.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm very open-minded when it comes to that. I just don't understand why it is the way it is right now.
Yeah. It's kind of like when they changed the qualifying format from what it was before, where it was like everybody goes individually and does one lap.
Yeah.
As opposed to now we have like this Q1, Q2, Q3 system.
Yeah.
I think this system makes a lot of sense. I think I can see a lot of reasons why it's like well thought out and why like it progressively gets more exciting. Like that's a good thing to implement in the sport. Before it used to be that like you had to wait for people to go through, and the beginning was really boring.
When we watched Formula One, it was so incredibly boring.
Yeah, it was like you had to wait forever for one car to go around the track. Then they did the lap, and then I think they get another try after that. Or was it just one lap?
Then they used to be like, hey, you have qualifying. There's an hour of qualifying, and then all the drivers can go out as many times as they want for that 1 hour and set the time that get them in pole position. And it's like, and the drivers are like, okay, we have an hour. And they would wait until there were like 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, and go at the very end of it. Because they were like, we're not going to go right now when the track conditions, like the track is clean. We want to go at the very last minute when the track has the most amount of grip.
Exactly.
And then like finally we'll be able to get the best out of the car. So like you had this period of time of like 50 minutes that you don't see any cars, and people are paying money to go like to qualifying, and then the track is empty for 50 minutes.
Exactly.
So they changed it. They changed it to like what they're gonna do is like based on championship order, you go out onto the track and you have one lap that you can go out on.
All right.
So like if you were first in the championship, you would be the first one on track, and then you do your one lap, and then that's your qualifying, and then like you keep doing that, like, and it goes in championship order. And then again, it's like, well, I'm doing this whole thing, and then I only do one lap. So I saw my favorite driver, and then that's it. I don't get to see them again for like another hour or like until tomorrow. And then the thing that would also cause is that if it rains for certain part of qualifying, and then not for the other one, it would scramble up the entire grid, and it wouldn't feel fair. It's like, well, I went out, but it fucking rained.
Yeah.
And then like that person went out and it's dry.
Yeah.
Like, is this really like fair? Like,
right. So. Yeah, exactly. So that's a perfect occasion in which you should change the rules when like the racing makes more sense under different sort of rules. But they haven't really proved that yet, in my opinion, with the sprint races. That I don't think the entertainment is getting better that much. Like you said, like a lot of it is getting like the last half of the sprint qualifying is kind of like, I don't know. I was kind of like half watching it, and I was like, okay,
it ended. Like that guy got first, and I'm like, okay, now I wait for tomorrow. It doesn't end on like a climax.
Yeah, and there's no podium, and then at the end of the thing, they're like, yeah, tomorrow we'll come back and we'll score points, and that's it. It doesn't change. Whereas like a good qualifying can be like super exciting, like a good like Q3 at the end. Like you could be like, it could be like, I'm thinking of like, for example, like Saudi Arabia last year, where like Verstappen was just doing the lap of his life, like really flying on the track, and then at the end like he crashed, and everybody was like, holy shit. Like, oh my God, like everybody was like, I think he just lost the championship, which I thought that was like the point where he actually lost the championship. And I was like, damn, dude, if he would have completed that lap, I mean, he would have been like on top shape for the rest of the weekend, but now his psychological was fucked. But it was very intense. I thought at that point of the season, like the qualifyings were getting very intense because it really depended a lot on the qualifyings to see what happened in the race. So, So yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess that's our sprint race
analysis.
Let's do now the one and most obvious one. I think the one probably people want to hear the most about is Charles Leclerc.
Crashing.
Yes.
Well, I guess for that, I guess the first thing I want to talk about is more about the result of the race. And I mean, I don't know. I hate to say it, but like I feel like Verstappen like, you may like him, you may dislike him. I'm kind of on the disliking side, but he's going back on me. Like the thing is that he's always a contender. That's the one thing you can take from the guy. It's like the guy is incredible at driving. Like he's talented as hell.
We're gonna switch the topic. This is gonna be now Verstappen time. Then.
Well, it's right? I wanted to talk about like the entire like top of the championship.
Yeah, let's do Verstappen here because I want to say something about that. Right?
Okay.
I am not a Verstappen fan. Like I don't like him all that much as a person. His personality is a little. I think I would clash in him personality wise.
I think so.
It's like not the type of driver like I gravitate towards. But besides his personality and his driving style in previous years,
the
guy's a really good driver. And I think this year, for some reason, I'm liking him more now. Which is something that you said like a little bit. It's like, oh, he's growing on me a little bit. And I'm like, strangely, he's growing on me too a little bit. But like I think the reason is like all the previous years, his driving style is very arrogant, very aggressive. He just
Yeah.
takes people out. He doesn't give room to anybody. He's just like unapologetically like, I'm just gonna stick my car here and then you either move or we crash. And
Yeah.
I really don't like that a driver is allowed to do that and get away with it. And I think Verstappen just does that over and over again, and that's the way that he's been like winning and making like himself like as a name and building himself up.
Yeah. Up
But
until Formula One, I think that worked for him. Yeah.
yeah, and I think like last year it was like I truly hate this guy like for the whole Silverstone incident, then him putting the car on top of Hamilton.
I feel like that was a tipping point for me, because I feel like for that entire season until even in Silverstone, I was like, that was an incident where I thought Hamilton was maybe not in the 100% in the right. But I also thought that like Verstappen just did something foolish. But I wasn't like, oh, Verstappen is a fucking idiot, or like I hate him. It was until the Monza incident where I was just like, dude, this guy hasn't changed. Or like he has. When he's driving relaxed, when he's driving normal, like a normal human being, he can go super fast and he's consistent and he's in a good mood. That's when he performs at his best. But then once the pressure started creeping onto him, he became that dirty driver that like,
yes,
like he literally like crashed into Hamilton.
We saw it on Monza. In Brazil, he literally didn't turn.
Right. In Saudi Arabia, he brake tested.
In Saudi Arabia, he does the brake testing, and then also when like Hamilton like gets the corner like out of the start, Verstappen just puts his car like, remember, just like cross the first turn. I'm like, what is that? Like, who does that? Like he's losing it. Like mentally, he's just, I'm gonna put every trick on the book here, and I'm like, how can you allow a driver to do that? Also for Silverstone, regardless of like what happened on the incident, is what happened afterwards that like upset me with him. Like as a personality, he's saying like, oh, Lewis Hamilton is out there celebrating, and like you shouldn't celebrate that way. That's like disrespectful. And I'm like, bro, like the fact that you think that he's celebrating and that he's doing it to taunt you or to disrespect you is so selfish of you. The guy is a world champion. He's in his home race. He crashed. They give him a 10-second penalty, and he still came on and won that race. And in Formula One, it's not like you can say like, oh, next year I'll win it again, or next year I'll have a chance to win again. It's like, no, that could be literally the last time Lewis Hamilton will ever win in his home Grand Prix.
In Silverstone,
yeah. And he's celebrating and enjoying it, and then you're saying that's disrespectful. And I'm like, how selfish are you?
Right.
Just let people be people, and you just worry about yourself. But the fact that he thinks that Lewis and everybody should worry also about him, it's like, bro, just shut up. And then like saying you put the car on top of Hamilton in Monza, and then you see him in the car still, like you start spinning the wheel on top of his head. You get out of the car is still on top of Hamilton, and you don't check on him to see if he's okay or anything.
Right.
You just walk away, and I'm like, oh, and that's not disrespectful.
Right. And like the car literally like went over Hamilton's helmet. Like Hamilton was like this close to like actual death by decapitation from Verstappen. It's like, it's kind of crazy to think how like 2 years earlier there wasn't any halo. You would have killed Hamilton doing that shit. Like you would have actually killed like one of the greatest, if not the greatest driver of all time. And I was just like, and the corner wasn't yours. There's no fucking argument that you can ever give me that will convince me that that was your corner. You were behind before turn 1. And then on turn 2, you were still behind. And not only you were even more behind, and Hamilton didn't have to yield at all. And you just literally like, they didn't break. You didn't care about your car. You obviously wanted to crash onto him to take away the points that he would have won in the race, so that like you would stay ahead in the championship. That was literally what happened, and that's like as dirty of a driving as you can ask.
Yeah, and then like he just moves on as like nothing ever happened.
Yeah,
and we take for granted like the fact that the halo saved like Hamilton's life. But what happens if we're fighting for the championship and that happens, and we don't have a halo, and Verstappen kills Hamilton, and then Verstappen goes on to win the championship? Like, is he still seen as like
right?
Like
what are the ethical considerations for that, or
yeah,
connotations of that?
like we take it for granted that like, oh, but like Hamilton is still, he was fine, and they still get to race later on, and I'm like, yeah, but without the halo, like, okay,
Right.
the guy kills Hamilton and then like he wins the championship, and I'm like, are we all okay with that? Like, this guy is a great driver, or at that point do we start judging him and be like, Verstappen, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
So I mean, all of that to say that I'm not a Verstappen fan, you know, but like the fact that after
But he's
all
a
of
good
that,
driver.
after all of that criticism, for me to be like, oh, he's growing on me as of recently, I feel like it speaks for Verstappen as a driver as to how good he is. I feel like this year, all of the stuff that he went through last year with Hamilton, all of those like crashes and incidents are things that like if he would have just taken it easier, he could have gotten the points, and he probably would have won the championship last year in a way easier manner. He would have just made it so easy. If he would have yielded a little bit on Silverstone and he doesn't crash and goes farther out, he still finishes in the points, and then he can win the championship. If he doesn't put the car on top of Hamilton in Monza, he can still do it. Like, you know, there are just certain parts that like if you just settle for like, okay, this race I just need to, I know that it goes against every racing like pilot, like, you know, like instincts.
Yeah.
But like that's like the level of maturity that you need to get if you want to constantly be at the top. And I think Hamilton has that level, as we talked about, like, hey, I'm behind Gasly for an entire race. I'm not gonna risk it in the wet just because I want to go from 13 to 12. Like, you know, it's like, I don't have the best car, I'm gonna keep it as solid as I can.
Exactly.
And then I think that this year Verstappen is showing a little bit of that. I think like in Bahrain, he went for like the move as well. In Jeddah, he's like playing with Leclerc, and he actually got the best of Leclerc. I think also in Australia, he was kind of settling. He's like, okay, we're on second place. I don't not need to do anything crazy. This is just how I need to win the race. Unfortunately, the Red Bull broke down. And I think in this race, it's also like he's just being really solid.
Yep.
We haven't gotten to the point that like maybe he'll start doing something dirty. So I don't know if that's fully ironed out of himself, but it doesn't seem to be showing as of yet.
Yeah, I think that's what I was gonna say. It's like, yes, so he's starting to grow on me again a little bit, like you, but like as we get further into the season, and if things do start getting stressful, by the end of the season, I'm just afraid that he's just gonna revert back to it. And I like that's the part that I'm not sure if. Like, I'm not sure if it's true or not. Like that I don't know if I understand his psyche well enough to understand if he's like being like a deceiving driver in the sense of like, oh, he's so nice when he's doing well, but like his real attitude is like be dirty if he has to, or if he's just like on stressful circumstances, like, you know, he just tries everything and like see what the FIA lets him get away with, even though he's not a bad person. Like, I don't know. I don't know. So yeah. So my thing with him is still 50-50. But yeah. I don't know. It is. I guess it is a good segue into the next part to talk about.
I mean, but
versus Leclerc.
Oh, yeah, the other thing, just so you know, about Verstappen and how solid he is as a driver. Like, I think the last 35 races that he's finished, right? That he's actually finished the race and that his car hasn't been done. The last 35. He's either finished first or second on every race. So yeah, like,
that's incredible.
That's like, I don't know, that's reaching a level of like how solid of a driver can you really be for you to like do that? Like, you have to be a really good driver Like,
Right.
there's no denying of how much talent there is in Verstappen. It's just the way that he drives and his personality. I don't mesh well there.
Yeah. But it is a good segue into his battle and the battle with Leclerc. Okay.
We're on here in Formula One.
Yeah, no.
Let's talk about Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, so Leclerc. So it's a good segue in the sense of like Leclerc needs to. I don't know. I don't, because I don't think he's quite doing anything wrong just yet. I feel like he's sort of understanding whether or not he's actually in the championship fight. And until this point, it had been all like nice and dandy. You know, the races that he's won, he was very comfortable with the car, very comfortable on the track. But on the past years, once he starts making mistakes, he starts becoming very harsh on himself. Like he's like incredibly self, like a perfectionist. Like we're like, you know, when he started crashing in what was it, Azerbaijan, like 2019, and like he started being like, I am stupid, you know. And it's like, but it felt like it was more like that was like his general attitude, like everything needs to be perfect all the time, otherwise I'm not like the greatest driver. And I feel like that's just not the right attitude you need to have if you want to drive for the championship. Like if you want to win the championship, you have to be more relaxed, but it's about consistency. It's about just being consistently fast and doing the smart decisions when you need to make the smart decisions. And so on this case, when he was trying to chase Checo down, I just think I think he's starting to want it more than like to try to retain more than like he maybe can, and like maybe it's starting to make mistakes because of that. So like I mean, it needs to come down to earth a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, we've always said it that Charles Leclerc is just such a good driver. Like, no matter in what car you put him, the guy will get the best out of every single car he drives.
Yes.
And there's just very few drivers that can do that. The only thing is that Charles Leclerc is very prone to getting in his own head. Like,
yes.
Yeah, he like at some point when like the moment matters and when he feels like he really needs to show up, he makes a mistake. So that's in Baku when like the Ferraris were clearly like the fastest car there, and he felt like I need to show up and show that I can get pole position, and he crashes.
It was Monaco last year.
Monaco, where like it's his home Grand Prix, and he needs to show up. He did get pole position, but
then he crashed.
The accident, he crashed, and then the car couldn't start the race because there was an issue with the gearbox.
Yeah, and actually it was 2 years in a row too, because he also in 2000. Was it 2019 or 2020 when he started in Ferrari? But anyways, it doesn't matter. But that first year that he was there, he also like they had a good chance at Monaco, and it wasn't his fault per se because the team messed him up a little bit. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, not to get too into it.
Yeah. So for Charles, it's just like he's always making like that one mistake and the only enemy is himself.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's too easy to get in his head when like he wants to like I want to be better or show that I can. So for example, I know that and this is like something that we complain about, but for example in Saudi Arabia, he's ahead of Verstappen and he's doing everything he can to try to keep the position, including breaking the rules and going over the pit lane entry, which I don't know what happened to that. No, but anyway,
we never heard of it.
Yeah. Besides that, he just keeps making these mistakes and breaking the rules. And even though in that case it was waived by the FIA and swept under the rug, and then like obviously the race ends and Charles is like, yeah, I got second. We did the best that we could, but now like, yeah, but you did break the rules there. Just trying to do something just because you're pushing yourself. Just at that time it wasn't punished, and then in this case in Imola it's like the same thing. Like he's trying really hard to like fight for a place that it is really hard to pass Sergio Perez on a Red Bull. Like Lewis Hamilton can tell you that. And even more so in a track like Imola. So I know that you're trying to stay as close as you can to the Red Bull. So
Yep.
like on the straight, you can have like the best DRS like advantage that you can. But you made a mistake, and like you didn't have to. You could have just finished third, and that's like the same thing that we're talking about. Like Max Verstappen, it's like or Lewis Hamilton. You just gotta know when like you have to just settle for where you're at.
Yes, and just appreciate those points.
Yeah.
Because you lose so much more by like doing that, by like making that mistake. Like I think Verstappen learned that last year in Silverstone. Like, you technically speaking, you didn't have to yield to Hamilton, but now look at how many points you lost. And in same in this occasion, like you were pushing a lot harder than you needed to. I think partially because he's trying out to really go for it, to like he feels like he really needs to go for it. But it's counterintuitive, but that's not the right approach. The right approach is to take it easy, take it slow. This is the beginning of the season. You'll do what you can. This is the fourth race, and like he's already like stressing out over it. No, I think he really needs to settle down and come back stronger. And I actually like what you said about Perez, because I actually think that like Perez did also a really good job, and I think especially on the beginning of the race, I think he really understood what his job was at the beginning of the race, which was literally just get ahead of Leclerc and then don't let him pass. And that's what he did on the first turn. He literally just got in front of Leclerc and like sat there. Like he wasn't trying to pass Verstappen. He was just trying to block Leclerc from going. And I think that's why Perez is honestly the best like teammate you could possibly ask.
Yeah.
Like
actually, now that you're saying that, I do have a segue right into that topic.
All right.
So the segue into that is Carlos Sainz versus Sergio Perez. I feel, honestly, maybe Carlos, we don't know yet, right? Because he's crashed out of 2 races. So who knows? He might still be as good or as fast as Leclerc. He just hasn't had the time to like race and prove it. But I feel like, in all honesty, Carlos Sainz in Ferrari, to me, feels like he should be doing what Sergio Perez is doing in Red Bull. Just understand the car as best as you can, even if it's not built for you, and try to get the most out of it and be as fast as you can be. And you don't have to fight your teammate. You guys can work together, And I feel like Sergio Perez just understands that. Like, I feel like I know that it must be hard for Sergio Perez and for any racing driver to be like, this driver is better than me.
Yes.
But I feel like if there's anybody that understands that, is Sergio Perez. The guy like probably and more than likely knows like Verstappen is faster than me no matter what I do here.
Yeah, the guy is just talented, more talent, like more gifted than I am.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem to bother him. And I there's a charm about it. There's something that like I respect that so much for like for Sergio Perez, and I'm like, dude, I respect that so much that the guy just knows like, I'm not gonna win the championship. Like Verstappen is always gonna be the favorite. He's always gonna be faster than me. Yeah. Well, not always, but like most of the time he's going to be.
Right. But that's what understanding your role, not necessarily as second to Verstappen, but like as a driver in a team where like Verstappen is the favorite. You're just there to make sure that like the strategy for the team is split out so that like you can get the championship at the end of the year for the drivers and for the constructors. And I think he understands that. He understands that that's his role to play. And under right circumstances, he will be fighting for the championship as well. He just needs to remain there. Verstappen crashes out, all of a sudden he's ahead in points. Great.
Yeah.
And that could be the difference between winning the championship or not.
You just need to be solid every single race. Understand, like, okay, this is what plays to my strengths. I just need to stick to that, and not really force anything that is not me as a driver.
Yeah.
And part of me, like, this is why I compare it to like Carlos Sainz versus Sergio Perez, because I think Carlos Sainz really feels like I'm in a car that can potentially win the championship, and I want to fight for it. And I'm like, yeah, but be smart the way that you fight about it. Don't be something that you're not, because like it's proven that like, well, it's proven in like the one race where like he made the mistake. I don't think Imola was him, maybe a little bit on quali, but but then again in Saudi Arabia, and then again on Bahrain, he's just mad that he's not the superstar. Like he's sending second to Leclerc, and I'm like, oh, he's probably happy. Like he got a podium with Ferrari, a 1 and 2 on the first race of the year.
Yeah,
and he's just angry.
He's been like negative about it. He's like, no, I have to do better. Which in a way it's like an okay thing to know that you're not doing better, but you should legitimately like be happy that that's what your team did. You know, like be okay with it. You know.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, he say, yeah, I'm happy for the team, but like, just because you say it, your face is not showing it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was like when you say like Sergio Perez understanding his role in the team, and I'm like, the guy, he really understands it. And I don't know, I respect that a lot. So
I respect that, and you can also contrast it to Bottas last year, but I mean we've done a comparison before, so I don't think we really need to get too much into it.
I have some other topics of conversation for the race. One of them is about the DRS.
Oh yeah, I thought we were gonna put that in the complaint section, but I guess this is here. This is fine here too. Where it's like yes, we kept texting about this, or I know I kept complaining about it.
Yeah, you were complaining about it.
Every lap, I was like, where the fuck is the DRS? Like what's going on? Like it's like it hasn't rained since the beginning of the race. Like it didn't even race during the race. The race was wet for a period of time, but we're like lap 30 something, and like where's the DRS? Why is it no DRS on? Like at what time or at what point do you deem it safe to activate the DRS? And like why hasn't it been done? Like it's not raining, and the side of the track that is wet is not gonna get drier by not driving on it. So
yeah, also it was kind of cold, like it was like 15 or 17 degrees Celsius on track, and I'm like, that's not particularly warm for the track to be getting any drier. So it's like, are you gonna enable the DRS? Like, what is going on? Like, we know that there's a dry line. I mean, Sebastian Vettel did come out and say that he felt like it was the right choice not to give DRS yet. That he felt like the track maybe on the surface is still dry, but like underneath is still pretty wet. So like you're like, I mean, I trust Sebastian, but I mean, I didn't really care about the DRS not being enabled. Yeah. And it wasn't until you texted that it's like, hey, like, where's the DRS? And I was like, should it be? Like, it feels a little dangerous, because it feels like even if somebody wants to overtake, and the thing is that the DRS, I know that we're talking like, oh, DRS, look at all of the track, and it seems like drivers are fine and they're driving on slick tires. And I'm like, well, yes, but the DRS only opens on the main straight. Right? And the overtaking opportunity is like by outbraking somebody on the first turn, and that inside of the first turn was still quite wet.
Yes, but they've been driving the entire race on the track. You know what I mean? I mean, like they had like tires at many points, not throughout the whole race, but like at some point they had like tires that were made for the wet, and then they went into the slick tires. And it's kind of like why wouldn't you enable it? Like, why wouldn't drivers can brake earlier? Like, if they're trying to pass somebody, they're still like they're still gonna have to go on the side of the thing, and so all you're doing is kind of like delaying, like passing, and then like the race as a whole. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess that makes sense. It's like, hey, we don't have DRS. because let's say that is my reasoning. It's like, hey, the inside of the turn one is still quite wet, so it's better if we don't have it. They, well, yeah, but even if you don't have it, people, if they want to overtake, they're gonna go on top of that regardless.
Right. And like and they're just gonna like speed. That's the only difference. And like they can break earlier. Yes, I guess it's a little bit more dangerous, but like the real danger is that like somebody doesn't break fully and goes into the grass. It's not like somebody. I don't think somebody's gonna like spin out on like the straight. I don't think that's really the concern. So yeah, I don't know. I was kind of pissed about it, but at the same time, it wasn't like it was gonna change a lot. It was mostly because like I thought like Hamilton is obviously struggling to pass people, and like it doesn't seem to get better by not having the DRS, and there's also nothing else going on in the race.
The only thing that was going on was the Hamilton train for
for a while,
for the longest time, like 25 laps, I think. And I just like, I mean, I don't know, man. Like this is, and like every like at some point, like after 10 or 11 attempts, and I'm like, I'm not falling for it anymore. Every time that they show Hamilton like right next to Gasly, I'm like, it's not gonna happen. I'm just gonna do it. Yeah. And then like I was like, see, it's not happening. And then they show it again, see, it's not happening. And then like every now and then like they show something else, and then they come back and Hamilton is almost there. And I'm like, oh, and then it didn't happen. And I'm like, you almost got me there.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, this is gonna happen. And I'm like, no, it didn't happen. It's like, yeah, god damn it. I said that I wasn't gonna let it happen.
Yeah, it was close, but yeah, no. So I mean, yeah, again, I guess I was like annoyed about it, but it's not the end of the world. I mean, it's not like he was stopping the race or like changing the championship leadership or something like that. So
cool. With that in mind, I have something else I wanted to talk about similar to that. What I wanted to talk about is Imola as a track. I am not a fan of Imola at all. I feel like I could do without this race in Formula One. I feel like the track is quite iconic. It has a lot of history, good history, also some dark history in the fact that a lot of people have died there, including Ayrton Senna.
Yep.
And like you have like obviously the classic as well, like Fernando Alonso defending from Michael Schumacher at the very end. Like just, I mean, also you have the Juan Pablo Montoya. It's like, oh, you didn't see me there. You must be stupid or blind. So there's like a lot of certain events that have happened there, and the track just brings all of those memories to mind. But I feel like for modern Formula One, I'm like, as much as the cars can follow each other, I feel like we can do without this track. Like just because the track has some history doesn't mean that we need to race there. And so I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
I'm conflicted because, I mean, I feel like on the calendar we have also a lot of tracks that are kind of like this, but that like maybe worse. Maybe like I want to say Hungary is probably a good example of like a track where it's like super difficult to pass.
I want to see Hungary with the new cars. I'm just saying. After seeing it now with the new cars, I feel like I can do it without Imola. We have other tracks in Italy, like we have Monza. I actually feel like Mugello.
Mugello was good.
It was really good. We don't have it in the calendar. It was just servicing like the pandemic purposes. But I feel like we can do with Mugello and take out Imola, and I'll be completely happy with that. I think Mugello is a much better track. I know like Hungary is not the greatest. I feel like another one that I can do without is Spain.
Same here. I'm not a fan
again.
of Spain.
We would have to see it without like with the new cars to see how it works.
Yeah.
But I'm like, after seeing Imola with the new cars, and I'm like, I'm okay. Just we can skip this track. Like
cut it off.
Yeah.
I feel like I will give it one more year because I mean there's times like, for example, I remember like the Canadian Grand Prix last time that we raced there, it was like the most boring race.
Oh yes,
But
but the track is really good.
But like every other year, like the track was fine, you know, like like good passes and stuff. It's just sometimes it's just a boring race. So I think last year's Imola was good too. Was it last year or the year before? I don't remember.
Last year it was fine. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will give it one more shot.
I feel like it looks
really fun to drive on. It looks like it's really fun.
Yeah, the track is just, I know it's an old school track. It's been there for many years, but like that's what I'm saying. It doesn't accommodate modern Formula One cars that are wider. They're just much bigger, heavier. You cannot be super nimble in these cars anymore.
Yeah.
Like when you see, like, I don't know, watch Sergio Perez and Leclerc, or watch Hamilton and Gasly just be stuck like behind each other for all these laps, and compare it to watching Alonso and Michael Schumacher when like the cars were much smaller. And like you feel like the excitement on the Schumacher Alonso thing, and in this one's it's like they're not gonna be able to overtake each other. It's not gonna happen. So that's what I'm saying. The other thing about a track like Imola that I wanted to bring as a topic of conversation is the gravel traps versus the runoff areas. Obviously, you have the gravel, like Carlos Sainz got beach there. Yeah. And then obviously, if there would have been a runoff area,
he wouldn't have. Yeah,
he wouldn't have. What is like I don't know if you have any thoughts about that. Like, do you prefer any? I have an answer as to what I prefer, but I want to see what you think.
Well, I guess now I don't really have a preference. I think it's track specific or I guess turn specific. For that turn, I feel like there didn't need to be gravel there. Why would there need to be gravel there? You know, like that could have been a perfectly fine runoff area because you're braking and turning, and that's like the area behind like the turn. So it's like no reason for there to like end your race there. Like nobody's gonna really go off there like at a very high speed, which is when you need the gravel. So I think it's more like turn specific. Like if you're coming in from like a really, really, really fast like first turn, having runoff is good, but I think gravel is probably safer for like those type of occasions, or like really fast turns like where gravel is better. But that, I mean, I don't know. Why? What's your take?
Yeah, my take is that I'm a fan of the runoff areas because I feel like they are safer. But it falls into the same argument as to, let's say you're building a city, and then this is like a very real example. If you have a city anywhere in the world, like, and you have accidents in it, people realize like, oh, why are accidents occurring? How do we decrease the likelihood of accidents? And then so one study that somebody made is like, oh, if the streets were bigger, the car would have more room to like hit the brakes and make sure that there's no accidents. But that's assuming that there's not going to be a behavior that changes from the driver, right? But what ends up happening is that when there's so much space on the road, drivers will now drive faster. And therefore, even though there's more space, there's going to be more accidents. And that's like a real thing, like in the real world. The streets where there are more accidents, that are car accidents, are the ones that are bigger. And the safer roads, which are the ones that are narrower, and they have less visibility, or they have trees or other cars on the sides being parked and stuff, those end up being safer because the drivers are paying, or they're being more careful about the way that they drive. So when it comes to terms of safety, I like the runoff areas because Formula One cars are going to be driving fast no matter what, you know? So you do need, like, you cannot put barriers like everywhere just to prevent the cars from like not driving fast. And I'm like, it's a Formula One car. You're meant to be racing. Obviously, on the street, on a like regular street, I prefer like a closed off segment because it's safer for people. I feel for Formula One, you do not need to be so close. You need to have runoff areas.
Yep.
But the other side of the coin is that the drivers take advantage of the runoff areas, and then they go off. They don't get penalized for it because the rules are so vague.
Like in the infamous example of like the US Grand Prix, and like I don't know what it is, like maybe Formula E or something.
No, I think it was IndyCar.
Oh, it was IndyCar, where like everybody was just like using the runoff area like it was a track.
Yes, it's like and it doesn't get policed, and then like it happens in Formula One. It happened several times last year.
Yeah, it happened on esports once, which I thought it was pretty funny, because that's when I was watching the Leclerc stream on the middle of the pandemic, and like he was like, "Guys, just wait, you just wait to see this. I have something prepared for you guys," and then like they all started doing it. We're like on the last turn of the China track. They were all literally not braking. They were all just like taking it like full on, but they were like using the entire like runoff area, and like since they all agreed to it, it was like they're just like making a foolery out of China. But it was pretty funny. So, but yeah, it's kind of like a similar thing. Yeah.
So for me, what do I prefer? If I had my ideal world, it would be runoff areas are okay, because I think it's safer for Formula One cars because they do need the space to brake. They don't need to be careful about how they drive it. Like you're racing. Mm-hmm. Therefore, the runoff areas make sense. But the FIA also needs to like penalize the drivers that take advantage of that.
Yeah.
Like some cars like go off and it's like, oh, it was an accident. I'm sorry, I went off a little bit. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you're penalized. It's like you wouldn't have gone off if there would have been a gravel trap there.
Yeah.
It's like you are going off right now because there's a runoff area. Mm-hmm. But as a driver, like you should know, like if that was a gravel trap, that's your race.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember like I think Verstappen like last year said something like, if you don't want us to go off, just put gravel all over, you know?
Well, yeah, but the thing with gravel is that gravel is not as safe as the runoff area in some tracks. And the reason is because when the cars are going too fast, the gravel launches the car on the air, right? The cars are bouncing, and they have like a higher possibility of like hurting the drivers and damaging the car and etc. While the runoff areas are safer because the cars still have the traction in the tires and can slow down the car. So I understand that Verstappen is like, oh, if you don't want me to go off, put a gravel trap. And I'm like, well, we're taking the gravel trap out of it to keep you safe. Now, how about you drive inside the track?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, okay. I mean, I can agree with pretty much everything you said.
Yeah, so I prefer the runoff areas as long as the FIA punishes people that go off. So I know that like in the race we had there's like the runoff area and on like I think the turn is called Aqua Minerale where people kept spinning.
Yep.
And then you have like Carlos Sainz who got beached. And I'm like, if there would have been a runoff area, his race would have still gone ahead. But yeah, I just wanted to see what you think, if you ever thought about that. That was just like a complaint. Like just the drivers should not go off or be penalized for going off.
I don't know. I feel like I think you still should ban it and be track specific, like and turn specific, I should say. Like I think if it's a fast like set of turns like an SS, sure, have some gravel. If it's like somewhere where like you deem like it's more safe to have a runoff area, sure. And yeah, I just think like drivers should respect that, and you should punish them. Like you should actually punish them if you see like, and I don't mean like giving like penalties, just like I mean maybe penalties, but like warnings, and for sure like if they're qualifying, like erase their time. That
I mean totally in the game is perfectly clear. You went off.
Yeah.
You exactly. Hey, don't do that again. I don't know
it's
why
like
it's
if you
so
go off by
hard
like a little bit.
Yes. It's like you're going super fast and then you go off and then you cross the line just a little bit, a millimeter. The game, your lap time is invalidated.
Mhm.
Why is it so hard for like the real thing to be like that? Like just we're all seeing it. Just penalize them. Like cancel their lap times. Just it's easy. We're all watching it.
And
Just
it's
do
fine.
it.
It's fine. Like the drivers understand that they did something wrong.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Anyway, okay, we can go on the next topic unless you had something else to add.
No.
Okay. This is the last topic that I wanted to talk about before we go into some complaints. Although I feel like we've been complaining already about the DRS and about the runoff areas.
That was what we complained for the week.
Okay. So the one thing I wanted to talk about that I don't know if it falls into complaints or not, but maybe something that needs to be taken a look at is the bouncing from the cars, especially from the Mercedes. And I already know that we talk about Mercedes like a little bit before, but in this case, I feel like it's really dangerous. George Russell is saying that this race is like the most pain he's ever been with in a Formula One car. The bouncing just puts too much like pressure on his chest, and it hurts. And I'm like, that just can't be a thing, you know?
Yeah.
It's like I know that the guys are racing car drivers. They have multi-million-dollar contracts and they have to produce the results.
Mm-hmm.
So therefore they're gonna risk their lives to try to do that. And I feel like, hey, that's something that we've evolved out of Formula One. It's like, hey, let's try not to think about drivers having like their life being like
in danger,
at
like
risk,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because they want to get the best result possible. I just want to know if you have any thoughts about that, because I don't know if Formula One should do something about it.
I've thought about it, and I think they should do something about it. I don't know what they can do, but like to me it looks very, very unsafe. Like I just think of the driver like bouncing like that. So at the beginning of the season, they were showing the camera of like when like the drivers are like facing, or like it's facing the driver, right? And you will see like the purposing, and it was I think they stopped showing it because of how bad it actually looked. Because like you would see,
I remember seeing Pierre Gasly
look going like this, and it's like his head looked like it was about to explode, and it's like there is no way that if you show that to a physician, that the physician is going to tell you that that's like an okay way in which a human body should move 57 laps on a race, you know? Like I feel like it's too intense, and I do think it probably is shaking like the insides of the drivers, like your brain might be like vibrating inside as well. That cannot be good for you. I think they should really start thinking about the health of the drivers in this, because it's really pronounced. It's like a really evidently strong effect. Like everything's shaking. It cannot be healthy, and I think they something should be done. I don't know why. I don't know if you need to suspend the cars or like.
So just to go into like some history about like. I think something that has happened in the past that is similar to this, not the same, but similar. I think it was on Formula Kart. I don't know or what it was called, like what now we know as IndyCar, but what many years ago was known as a Formula Kart or whatever it was even before that. But in the US, there was a track, I believe it was in Las Vegas. And obviously it's an oval when like they race in the United States, like mainly.
Yeah.
And there was a particular track in Las Vegas where the oval was more of like a rectangle, rather than like a circle.
An actual oval. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like an actual oval. And the way that the rectangle is set, the angle was too sharp, but the drivers would be incentivized, obviously, because you need to win. You need to go as fast as you can, to take that turn as fast as they can. And obviously, if you turn left, your body wants to go right. And the drivers kept being pulled, like, and the Gs were constantly on the 6 Gs on every single turn, you know? So you're there, I think it's like 200 laps that like you have to do on like that oval or rectangle. And what ended up happening is that track became known for like killing drivers, because what ends up happening is that as they are turning for over an extended period of time, the blood from the brain of the drivers is being pulled out, and like they're passing out while driving, crashing onto the wall and killing themselves. And I'm like, I know that. I mean, it's very graphic, and obviously you don't get to see the blood being pulled out of the everything happening inside their helmets and inside their skull. But I'm like, this kind of gives me like some flashbacks of that. It's like, it was a Las Vegas track, so anybody that wants to fucking go look at that example, it's like, I mean, I feel like it's kind of like that, but now in modern times, that we're like, hey, we're bouncing, and we're kind of dismissing it a little bit, because it's not every single team, and we want to make it like, hey, some other teams were able to deal with it. Now, like, why should we like change the rules? So, and I'm like, well,
you can't allow so for example, like 2 years ago in 2020, when they decided to suspend the season for somebody having COVID at track, I was like, oh man, that seems like a really strong overreaction. For like one race, somebody in McLaren's got it, then they were like, okay, we can't race McLaren, and then everybody just canceled.
I think that was in Australia. Wasn't it in Australia?
Yeah, it was about to.
There was one person with COVID, and then they canceled the whole event.
Yeah, and then eventually the whole season too, or like suspended it for like at least a few months.
Yeah.
At first I thought it was an overreaction, but then afterwards I was like, it was probably the right thing. I mean, you were saving the driver's lives. And I feel like it's kind of a similar thing here, where it's like nobody wants to end the party. Nobody wants to ruin the fun and be like, let's think about the drivers. But there is you could be fucking up those drivers in the future. Like you could be doing some internal damage to those drivers, including Hamilton, Russell, and the Ferrari drivers. That is like, geez, like, is it worth trying to do that this year, or is it better to maybe like put a hole in it, revert back some regulations, and say like, maybe you can use a different type of wings or something,
or maybe like, hey, the minimum ride height for the cars needs to be like not so low, like just make it higher, so like nobody runs the risk of running the car so low, then the car begins bouncing. Right, because it's also like a thing for the car rides. Or
even impose something that says, especially now that Ferrari are losing terrain and like the Red Bulls are gonna pass them, I assume at some point. Just say like, if your car is driving that much, you cannot drive. Figure out a way to fix it. You need to fix it, but you need to make sure that car is not bouncing like that, because that is hurting the drivers, and I think it actually is hurting the drivers.
It puts a lot of pressure on the teams into like.
Like, we need to fucking fix this.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think those are valid points. I don't think there's a perfect solution. And it's also a thing that, like, it's not anybody's fault, because these are things that nobody predicted that this could have happened. Like, nobody talked about this effect, like the porpoising being a thing that would be an issue in Formula One. And that's mainly the last time we saw the ground effect cars. Was like in the 70s, I believe, or beginning of the 80s. I don't remember when it was completely banned or rolled out of Formula One, but I know it was in the 70s that ground effect cars existed. And it was an issue back then that porpoising would occur. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if that was like a thing that, because it was so short-lived and it was eventually banned, that we forgot about it and people completely forgot about it. I didn't even know it was a thing.
Yeah.
And then
I didn't know either.
Yeah, and that's because also in the wind tunnel, the air and the way that the cars are like being tested, you're not really going at 300 like kilometers an hour.
Right.
Like it's just wind being thrown at the
car. You see how it goes.
Yeah. You see how the wind goes. So you cannot predict that the car will begin bouncing the way that it does. So nobody predicted this as a thing, and then when everybody saw it in testing, it's like, oh my god, this is crazy. Is this for real? And like teams have learned like how to deal with it and how to manage it, but it's coming to a point like, I'm the Ferrari drivers, like I know that you see like, oh, but Ferrari is working fine for them, and I'm like, they're still bouncing. And just because the car is still it's not about the cars going fast or slow, It's about the bouncing and the damage that it causes to the drivers.
Yes.
So like, yeah, I know that the Ferrari drivers are still getting like results, and it looks like the car is really fast, even though that there's bouncing. Like, I'm not denying that. I'm not saying that just because it bounces, it's making the car slower. I'm saying that like, because it's bouncing, this could potentially be harming the driver's health.
I think, I think later in the season, I feel like you could start seeing drivers with like concussion like symptoms after like races because of like being like totally like bouncing like the entire, like your head is not supposed to bounce like that. You're like your body's not supposed to be in a constant state of like bouncing. It's not good for you. It's just not. So
I mean, the drivers are already going through like
so many forces,
like 5G, 6Gs, like every lap. Obviously, it's not like an extended period of time that they're going like during these forces, but they're already like going through this, and now on top of that, going through the bouncing up and down. Like George Russell was saying, like, oh, I did some vertical training, and I'm like, what is vertical training?
Yeah.
Like what is your fucking brain putting on a blender? And I'm like, no. Like, what are you doing?
Right. And it's also you can't, like, I assume what that he's doing is like maybe like doing muscles to like up and down or something like that to like maybe use
like
more of your body.
His body, to stabilize the head. But like I mean, as much as he gets his muscles really strong, like we're human beings. Like there's no way that
you can control that. It looks so much like it's like it really looks like your head's popping off as like you like it's violent. Honestly,
I mean, people may feel like, oh, but they have a helmet and all that, but the helmet I don't think helps. I mean, it helps a little bit, but still, your brain doesn't have a helmet.
Right.
Your head has a helmet.
Your brain is
the brain is still just there,
like bouncing inside. It's like it's gotta be moving inside.
Yeah, the brain is still shaking inside and hitting your skull. So that's what we're saying. Like there could be concussion-like symptoms after a race, and if not, like internal organs. Like I don't know what like this whole thing has happened. Like I feel like they should do something about it. I don't know what Mercedes is planning to do, or if they're gonna complain. I don't think they have complained about that. I feel like the pressure should also come from the drivers. Some drivers should just be like, I'm not driving if that thing keeps bouncing. I'm sorry. Like, at what point do you like take your health as a priority over the?
Yes, and again, I think it's gonna take maybe like I don't know. Maybe,
I think until like halfway through the season or something.
Yeah, or well, the thing is that it's gonna take.
I think it's gonna take until a driver passes out.
Exactly, that's what I was gonna say. Like until somebody like passes out or something because of the bouncing. And then they're gonna start taking it seriously. Like oh crap, we didn't know it was that bad. But like it looked really bad. It really is just kind of. I think there's kind of a waiting period to see like when it's gonna be fixed. But yeah, I don't know. Now it's gonna like we're in the fourth race already, and it's like a month and a half in or something. Like that should be that should have already been taken care of.
Yeah, like nobody's talking about. I mean, people are talking about the porpoising and the Mercedes doing like bouncing like that, but nobody's talking about like the driver's health.
Yeah, exactly.
So I feel like I don't know. At some point, it should be talked about and addressed.
Discussed, yeah. All right.
The one complaint that I have when it comes to the inconsistency of the rules is Kevin Magnussen weaving.
Yeah. Yes. The classic, the weaving's back.
It's like, which one is it? Is it a penalty? Is it not a penalty? In Australia, Stroll weaved once and he got a 5-second penalty. In Imola, K-Mag waves back and forth. And
it was so obvious that he was waving too.
Yeah, everybody saw like just...
the guy came out of like turn like 6 or 7 or something, and then like he just like went to the left, then went to the right, then went to the left again, like in quick succession. It wasn't even like a joke. It was just like, oh, that guy. I think they gave him a little bit more leniency because it was like the first lap of the race. But then it's like that. Is it what we always talk about? Then why wouldn't every driver do that at the beginning of the race? If it's just gonna be a warning, then you just account for it, right? So yeah, I think. I don't think you can let drivers get away with it. And if anything, you're setting a bad precedent. You should just like give the warning, like either give the warning and give it to everybody, or just give the 5 second penalty,
Or
like
give the penalty, yeah.
And I think that might be a better solution if you really want to get rid of the problem. If you really want to get rid of waiting, you need to just like give the penalty at this point.
Yeah. So that's my complaint. Just I don't know. Be consistent.
Yeah.
In one race is one thing, and the other one is the other thing. Why? Just keep it all consistent.
Yeah.
That's my only complaint. Quick and easy.
Quick and simple. I feel like we talked about the DRS and all that other things. I feel like we slowly been hitting all the points that I wanted to hit, but good.
Okay. All right. So with that in mind, we're just gonna go over the Formula One World Drivers Championship.
All right.
So if you're ready to start giving scores, I'm gonna go by the way that the teams sort of ended.
Okay.
So we can start with Max Verstappen.
Verstappen. So Verstappen, I give well, let me see. Did he finish in pole? He lost a position, then he finished in pole. Yeah, I think he can get the 5 out of 5. Fine. He also got the fastest lap of the race. Yes. Yes, he performed well. hate to admit it. Not a huge fan of Verstappen, but yeah, it's fine. I'll take it.
Perez
did pretty good too. Wasn't as fast, and he did mess up his qualifying. He ended up like 7th on the qualifying, and then on the sprint qualifying, he performed better. He also did a really good job at the start and was able to keep Leclerc back. I'm gonna give Perez. I'm debating between 4 and 4.5. Probably a 4. Let's do a 4.
4. Okay, I'm gonna start challenging some of these.
All right, yeah. please do.
Okay, let's talk about Charles Leclerc.
Okay, Charlie, Papa Charlie. I don't know. I feel like because he did spin out, but up until that point, he was doing the best he could with the Ferrari. But he did spin out, and that's a mistake. It's bad enough. He managed to save it, which is actually in his favor.
Yeah, I think he was quite lucky not to be
out. Yeah. Oof, that would have destroyed his spirit right in there, like Vettel style.
Yeah, like they are in Italy. Sainz got taken out, and then Leclerc crashes out on his own.
Yeah. Exactly. I'm gonna give him a 3 because he saved it. He still got some points. He wasn't the most embarrassing, and he was having a good weekend at the point. Maybe a little lenient. Maybe it should be a 2.5. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. But I think he was doing a fine job until that point.
Carlos Sainz.
I'm not gonna be as ruthless as last week. I'm gonna give him a 2.5.
I think 2.5 is like the score that we gave when we can't really rate the driver.
Yes,
it's like just hey, you're in the middle there. I think you were doing fine.
I'll give him a 2. Actually, I think I'll give him a 2. I'll change it to a 2 because I think because the qualifying he messed it up. Like he crashed on that. Then he did fine on the sprint qualifying, but then he messed up. Well, it wasn't really his fault, but I think the one mistake on qualifying. Can you hear me now?
We're back in business.
Oh yeah, look at that! You get a nice view of my apartment. You get to see the old bookcase over there full of the classics.
Nice.
Anyways, can you hear me? Okay, I had to change the mic a little bit. I'm a little further.
Sounds fine.
Okay, good. All right, let's finish quickly then. So because otherwise, I'm always like that.
So. Norris and Ricciardo. Norris, what do you give him?
Norris are really good. I'm gonna give Norris a 4.5. 4.5. I think that's as good as he can get for McLaren at the moment. Before you win the race.
Not a 5.
You can make the argument that he deserves a 5. I mean, like he kind of outdrove the car and he outdrove a Merc. I don't know. What do you think? Actually, I'm gonna let you choose on this one.
I don't know. I usually do it by what you put, right? So I feel like did Norris drive as best as he can? Like if you compare it to Verstappen, so you gave Verstappen a 5.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Norris drove as well as Verstappen did?
I don't know because he also didn't race anybody. Like Ricardo was stuck in the back, and it's not like it didn't seem like the Mercs had like the right.
I
No,
mean,
I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I'm gonna keep it at 4.5.
yeah, I feel like people could say like, "Hey, he got a podium," and I'm like, "Yeah, but he got a podium out of luck," you know.
Yeah,
So what
yeah.
Ricardo?
He drove well, but Ricardo, it's kind of sad. But he also messed up his weekend out of a tiny error. And aside from that, he was still behind Norris and he wasn't going faster. I'm gonna give him a 2. I thought about giving him a 2.5, but it wasn't like an atrocious showing either. It was just a little behind. Nothing crazy.
Hamilton.
Also, difficult weekend for him, but as I was saying, I think he's more saving energy. And it wasn't like a good showing. It wasn't like I didn't get the feeling that it's just like he's giving up on life. It's more like the car is also not there for him. I'm gonna give him a 2.5.
Russell.
Russell did pretty good. I'm gonna give him a 4.
4. Now we're going with Bottas.
Let me see. Bottas did really good. I'm gonna give him. Wasn't he like the? Well, I guess you can say that he was the best of the rest since
Yeah, he ended 5th behind Russell.
Right. Yeah. I mean that for an Alfa Romeo, that's a really good showing. So I think at the point I'm gonna give him a 4.5. I mean, there's not room to be made honestly for like a 5 out of 5, but I think 4.5 is good enough.
Yeah. Joe,
I don't even remember. I don't think I see him. I saw him the entire weekend.
Yeah.
Or he was like in the back.
He ended 15.
Yeah. I don't know. A 2.5, maybe a 3.
I think 2.5 because I don't know what he was doing. Definitely, I would shoot towards the lower side rather than the higher one.
And didn't he crash?
I think he crashed. Yeah.
Yeah, he did crash. So yeah, that's what happens.
Yuki,
I think Yuki is showing signs of life again. Like he's showing signs that like he's not just second to Pierre Gasly, which is nice. It's been a while. I feel like since like he has like beaten Gasly in a weekend, and it feels like he actually just was faster like on the entire race. So yeah, I think good. I'm gonna give him a 4. Solid 4 on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think Imola is like one of Yuki's better tracks. I think he drove that. I think he's driven that every single year before coming to Formula One. So it's like a track that he's really familiar with. But for whatever reason, last year he did pretty poorly on it. But it's just one of those tracks that I think he really likes and he knows.
Makes sense. Yeah. I think that makes sense. I think driver experience plays a big role on a lot of tracks. I've talked about that before about Leclerc in some tracks, but yeah, I think that's certainly the case. If you've driven that every year, you obviously know it better than the others. So
yeah, Gasly.
Gasly, I mean, he held Hamilton, but he also couldn't pass Albon, and I think that's kind of an indictment there. He also,
I have a complaint with Gasly, and this is the second weekend in a row. That he cannot pass the guy that's causing the DRS train.
Yeah.
Like in Australia, he also caused that at the end of the race, and he just doesn't overtake the car in front. And I'm like, I know that it's hard, I know that it's difficult, but like you have DRS.
I'm a faster car, I think. Especially on the straights also. So suspicious.
So I'm like, why can't you like go? Come on, just go. Like
I feel like I don't know. Maybe this time around could be that he was like spending more time trying to keep Hamilton behind and like trying to.
I don't know if he when that happens, if he just worries more about the person behind rather than trying to overtake the car in front.
Yeah.
But this is the second weekend where that happens. We can monitor the situation if this is like a Gasly thing.
He's on a watch list.
Yeah, we'll just put him in a watch list. Like, hey, what's happening here?
Like, are you not as fast anymore?
What's the score you give him?
2.5.
2.5. Alonso.
Alonso, he did a really good qualifying, I thought, and then he lost positions on the sprint qualifying, and then he never recovered. And then he lost a piece on the race.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give him 2.5 as well. Nothing exciting there, and there's no reason to give him any higher.
Yeah. Ocon
also was nowhere in the weekend. I didn't think he did particularly well on either qualifying, and then he just like stayed behind. So 2.5. I mean, these 2.5s are flying this weekend.
Vettel.
Good. A really good recovery. I think he felt really good about it. Really good attitude.
Yeah. This is what we were saying about Vettel. It's like we don't think he's gonna retire. It feels like the guy is still driving really good, and he still has it in him.
Yeah, for the fun of it. I'm gonna give him a 4, just because I honestly don't know what the Aston Martins can do just yet. Like, I don't know if he's supposed to be going faster or if he like outdrove the car. Like, in a sense, to me, it feels like the Aston Martins, there's like still more pace in them, and he is just getting used to them. So until I see further results, I think I'm just gonna give him the 4.
Okay, Stroll
did okay, but behind Vettel and not particularly great in anything. He did get points. I'm just telling you between a 3 and a 3.5. Did he have some passes that I didn't see? He didn't crash. And who was he behind at the end? He was behind Magnussen. Let's give him the 3. I'm gonna give him the 3.
The 3 is the same score you gave Leclerc.
Fine, 3.5. Let's be kind. Let's be generous.
You think he drove better than Leclerc because he didn't make any mistakes?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, Albon
good. I give him a 3.5. As like I think it was a solid performance. Outdrove his teammate. Almost got points. I think once you start getting points, you start getting in the force with the Williams.
Yeah, I mean he was 11th. He kept Gasly back the whole time, even though Gasly had DRS. But like, it's like, is that a Gasly issue or
is that
Albon
just Albon being
like
good?
Defending?
He did say after the race that, like, the Williams are a few tenths off just being like an actual contender for like the middle pack, which I kind of agree. I think it's true, and I think he's helping a lot in the development. So good.
Latifi.
2.5 or 2. I honestly, it doesn't matter. He's not gonna be the top 10. because he was nowhere. And you know what? It's kind of sad to see Latifi because I don't think he's accepted yet the fact that like he's not good enough. Like, I feel like the team keep telling him like you need to be more confident in the car. You need to be, you just need to be more out there, and that you get the pace. But I just don't think he has it. And I think he's like stressing out a lot about it. And I think at this point, I would just relax, dude. Just have fun on your last year of Formula One. just enjoy the drive that you have left.
I think it was kind of depressing and sad the way that he crashed on the qualifying. But he didn't crash. He spun out. Like, he's in a warm-up lap, and then he lost control of the car. And then also while he's on the grass, he's trying to recover, and then he did another spin on the grass. And
yeah, you don't like to see it, but again, I think it's just like he's trying to overcompensate for something that he doesn't really have. Like, he should just enjoy the drive at this point, and like, if he gets lucky again, there will be points, or if something happens, he might get points. But I mean, he's really far behind Albon on pace. So, anyways, that's my take.
Magnussen,
it's between 3 and 3.5. Because even though the weekends are like really strong, like everybody thought like he could be fucking fighting for a win because he got like on the second row of the thing, but then he just started losing positions because for some reason they put the mediums on him for the sprint race, which a decision that I still don't understand. I don't know if it was his fault as much as like kind of was hung to dry. Also, the Haas car tends to like just move back in the standings, like in the middle of the race. Like that's just what it does. It's just it's a better qualifying car than it's a racing car.
Mm.
I'm gonna give him a 3.5. 3.5. I think 2 points are still good for a Haas. And I think did he get 2? Yeah, he got 2 points.
Yeah, he got 2 points.
So I think that's perfectly fine for him. I think it's a good effort. In better we can still be more,
Okay. And last but not least, Mick Schumacher.
Mick, not good. Wasn't he? Didn't he like spin? Didn't he also like not out qualify Magnussen?
Yeah, he wasn't very good this weekend.
Yeah, I'm gonna give him a 2. I'm not gonna be too harsh, but he also did not impress.
Okay.
And it's kind of sad. It's kind of sad because Mick is such a nice guy.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy. I wish he could be as good as he's nice.
Yeah. All right.
So number 1, you have Max Verstappen with 5 points.
Yes.
And then we're going to go for second position. In second position, you have a 2-way tie versus Lando Norris and Valtteri Bottas.
It's actually a rough one. I think there's good arguments for both of them. I think for a fair way to kind of break this, they both out-qualified their teammates. They both out-raced their teammates, and they both ended up higher than they should have. I'm gonna give it just on track position. I think Lando first, Bottas third. Lando second, Bottas third.
Bottas third. So that's the podium. Verstappen, Norris, Bottas. Now we're gonna go in fourth position. You have a 4-way tie for Perez, Russell, Yuki, and Vettel.
Yeah.
Who gets it?
Okay, so I don't know. Again, I think there's positives for all of them. So let's go for track position again. Perez, Russell, Vettel. And who else was there? Was that all?
Yuki. Yuki was ahead of Vettel, so Yuki first. Perez, Russell, Yuki, Vettel. Okay, so we have the top 7.
Yuki ended up ahead of Vettel? I thought. Oh yeah.
Yeah, Yuki got 7th, Vettel got 8th.
Yeah, I think that's a fair way to do it. Because I mean there's good things to talk about all of them.
Okay, and then you have the last 3 places. You have a 3-way tie with Stroll, Albon, and Magnussen.
Okay, I think I'm gonna say Albon, Magnussen, Stroll.
You think Albon drove better than Magnussen and Stroll?
Yes. Yeah. I think Albon. Magnussen unfortunately just went backwards, but Stroll didn't impress either.
Yeah. Cool. So that's the top 10 that get points according to the Formula One points that we don't agree with. So I don't know why we're doing it, but still, just because it's fun.
Yeah.
The other thing, the last question that I had for you.
All right.
Is you have the best 2 cars, which I think is Red Bull and Ferrari. Which one do you think is faster? Or which one do you think is the best car here? Assuming they're both 100% reliable.
I think I think the Red Bulls still have the edge. Like I think they're still like the fastest car as a whole and the most likely to win the championship. I think I'm gonna stand with my original prediction that I did at the beginning of the year that I think that Ferraris might still end up with the championship trophy at the end. But Verstappen might still win the drivers' championship. So I don't know. I think I'm still seeing Red Bull advantage, and I think those upgrades for the Ferrari need to come quick. Like I think by Miami, because like at first it seemed like they did have an edge, but they haven't brought any updates, and it kind of shows.
Yep.
So I think they need to start like improving the car. by the next few races, if not the next one, because they're already like it's like starting to slag behind. Like Leclerc didn't seem to have enough pace to be racing with
Yep.
Verstappen on a track that you would have thought that Ferrari would be better.
Yeah, I thought Ferrari would be better on this track, but
Yeah,
for some reason they were not. Because it seems like a very similar track to like Australia, you know, like you need a little
yeah,
downforce,
exactly.
a lot of tight corners. I'm like, it seems like it should
Kinda,
be a good Ferrari track,
yeah,
and it
kind of the
wasn't.
same. And it was in Italy too, which is a home ground
Yeah.
advantage. And then
Okay.
I think, sorry, one last thing, and then beginning it. But yeah, I think for the Miami Grand Prix, I'm kind of excited. Miami, our hometown.
Yes.
uh, I think well, our hometown when we moved to the US. I guess I should clarify that.
Yeah.
But I think it kind of looks like the Bahrain track. So I assume that the Ferraris might have an advantage, but I think it's gonna be a wild card. I think it's gonna be a fun race. I actually think it's gonna,
Yeah, nobody
no,
has any data on it.
yes,
The weather in Miami could also, like,
it could
we'll
be
see. It
cold.
could be cold. It could be humid. It could
Yeah,
be really sunny. It's gonna be humid for sure, whether it's sunny or
it could
cold.
be windy also or rainy.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's gonna be fun
yeah.
to see the hometown.
And then the other thing that I wanted to, like, we know about the Red Bull and the Ferraris just being at the top. Who do you think is the third best car?
I don't know. It's between the Mercs and the McLarens, obviously, but I think the Mercedes still have an edge. I think they do. It'll be track specific until we know more, and they really need to they do need to fix that purposing. But once they do, I think they have the edge. I think they're, as a team, they just have it together more, and they'll be able to bring it back more reliably than the McLarens.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we did it.
All right. It was nice. It was nice.